Scary True Remote Places Horror Stories. Dr. Sarah Winters had been conducting ecological research in the remote Alaskan wilderness for 6 weeks when she first heard the screaming. It was 3:17 a.m. on a July night that never got truly dark, the midnight sun casting the landscape in perpetual twilight, and the sound cut through the silence like a knife. Sarah sat up in her tent, her heart hammering. The scream came again. Human. Definitely human, but wrong in ways she couldn't immediately articulate. It was coming from somewhere deep in the forest that surrounded her research camp, maybe half a mile away. "Hello," Sarah called out, grabbing her flashlight despite the ambient light. "Is someone out there? Do you need help?" The screaming stopped. In the silence that followed, Sarah heard something else. Footsteps. Running footsteps. Crashing through the underbrush, getting closer. Sarah unzipped her tent and stepped out, shining her flashlight toward the sound. The forest at the edge of a clearing was dense with spruce and birch, shadows pooling beneath the canopy despite the midnight sun. And from those shadows, a figure emerged. It was a man, or had been a man. He was covered in blood, his clothes torn, his face a mask of absolute terror. He ran toward Sarah's camp with the desperation of prey fleeing a predator. "Help me!" he screamed. "Please, you have to help me. It's coming. It's—" The man collapsed 10 feet from Sarah's tent, his legs giving out. Sarah ran to him, her medical training overriding her fear. She knelt beside him, checking for injuries. "What happened? Who did this to you?" The man grabbed her arm with surprising strength, his eyes wild. "Not who. What? In the forest. Watching. Hunting. We thought it was a bear at first, but—" He coughed, blood flecking his lips. "It's not a bear. It's not anything that should exist." "I'm going to radio for help," Sarah said, but the man's grip tightened. "No time. It followed me. It's here." Sarah looked toward the forest. In the strange twilight, she saw movement, something large, moving between the trees with an unnatural gait. Not the four-legged shamble of a bear, but something else. Something that moved wrong, as if its joints bent in ways they shouldn't. "We need to get you inside the cabin," Sarah said, trying to help the man to his feet. Her research station included a small cabin about 50 yards away, more substantial than her tent. But the man was dead weight, his injuries too severe. "Go," he whispered. "Save yourself. It's not interested in me anymore. It's already got me. But you're fresh. New. It once." The man's words were cut off by a sound from the forest. Not a roar or growl, but something that made Sarah's primitive brain scream in recognition of a predator. It was a clicking sound, rhythmic and deliberate, like bones rattling together in a specific pattern. And then it stepped into the clearing. Sarah's mind rebelled against what her eyes were showing her. It was roughly the size of a grizzly bear, but that's where any similarity ended. Its body was wrong, too long, with too many joints in its limbs. Its head was white, featuring a mouth that opened vertically rather than horizontally, revealing rows of teeth that looked disturbingly human. But the eyes were what made Sarah's blood turn to ice. They were human eyes, dozens of them, covering its body like tumors, all focused on her with unmistakable intelligence. Sarah ran. She ran for the cabin, her legs pumping, her breath coming in ragged gasps. Behind her, she heard that clicking sound intensify, heard the thing giving chase. It was fast, impossibly fast for something its size. Sarah reached the cabin and slammed the door behind her, throwing the deadbolt. The structure was solid, built to withstand bears and harsh weather. But was it built to withstand that? The thing hit the door seconds later. The entire cabin shook with the impact. Sarah heard that clicking sound again, now right outside, and then something else, scratching. Not the scratching of claws against wood, but something more deliberate, almost methodical, as if the creature was testing the cabin's construction, looking for weaknesses. Sarah grabbed a satellite phone with shaking hands and called for emergency rescue. The nearest ranger station was 40 miles away, and a helicopter would take hours to reach her location. But it was her only hope. "This is Dr. Sarah Winters at Research Camp Echo 7, she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "I have an emergency. A man is injured, possibly dying, and there's an animal, attacking my position. I need immediate evacuation." The ranger on the other end asked questions. What kind of animal? How many people? What were the injuries? But Sarah's attention was fixed on the window. The thing was visible through the glass, circling the cabin, those human eyes examining every surface. And then it spoke, not in words, but in sounds, perfect imitations of human voices, calling out for help, crying, screaming. Sarah recognized the voices from earlier, the man's screams that had drawn her out of her tent. The creature was mimicking human distress calls, luring prey. "It's learning," Sarah whispered into the phone. "It's learning how to sound human." The ranger's voice became more urgent. "Stay inside. Help is on the way. Do you have any weapons?" Sarah had a rifle, required equipment for any researcher working in bear country. She grabbed it from the corner, checked that it was loaded, and aimed it at the door. The clicking sound stopped. The circling stopped. For a long moment, there was complete silence. Then the skylight exploded inward. The creature had climbed onto the roof. It dropped through the shattered skylight, glass raining down, landing in the center of the cabin with that impossible, wrong-jointed grace. Up close, Sarah could see that those human eyes covering its body were actually functioning. They blinked independently, tracking her movements. Sarah fired. The shot hit the creature in what she thought was its chest, and it screamed, not with that mimic human voice, but with its own voice, a sound that was mechanical and organic at once, like rusty gears grinding through flesh. The creature lunged. Sarah fired again and again, backing toward the door. The creature was wounded but not stopped, those too many joints allowing it to move even with multiple gunshots tearing through its body. Sarah reached the door, fumbled with a deadbolt, got it open. She ran out into the perpetual twilight, the creature right behind her. But as it reached the doorway, it stopped completely, as if hitting an invisible wall. Sarah turned back, confused. The creature stood in the doorway, those dozens of human eyes fixed on her, but it wouldn't cross the threshold. It clicked rapidly, a sound of frustration, then slowly retreated back into the cabin. Sarah backed away, keeping her eyes on the doorway. She understood now. The creature was territorial. The cabin was its territory now, claimed by its entry, but it wouldn't pursue her beyond its boundaries. At least, not yet. Sarah ran to where the injured man had fallen. He was dead, his eyes open and glassy, staring at the sky. But clutched in his hand was a notebook, and Sarah grabbed it. She ran then, not stopping until she'd put a mile between herself and the cabin, hiding among rocks at the base of a cliff. With shaking hands, she opened the notebook. It belonged to the dead man. His name was James Peterson, a wildlife photographer. The entries documented his last week, and what Sarah read made her stomach turn. July 18th. Found something in the forest. Tracks like nothing I've ever seen. Following them. July 19th. The tracks lead to a cave system. Going inside despite my better judgment. July 20th. Found remains. Human remains. Dozens of them. Some old, some recent, and something else. Symbols carved into the rock. This cave is being used by something intelligent. July 21st. It found me. Chased me for hours. I managed to hide, but I can hear it. It's learning. It mimicked my voice, called out to me using words I'd spoken hours earlier. July 22nd. Running. It herded me away from civilization, deeper into the wilderness. This is intentional. It's playing with me. July 23rd. Injured. Bleeding. Found another researcher's camp. Maybe I can... The entry ended there. Sarah heard the helicopter before she saw it, the most beautiful sound she'd ever heard. The rescue came just as dawn was finally breaking, true darkness coming to Alaska for the first time in weeks as summer transitioned toward fall. The rangers found the injured man's body. They found the cabin with its shattered skylight and blood on the floor, but they found no creature. And when they investigated the cave system James had written about, they found only animal bones and natural formations. Mass hysteria, the official report concluded. Dr. Winters experienced a stress-induced hallucination after encountering an injured man who'd been attacked by a bear. The unusual vocalizations were likely trauma-induced misinterpretation of normal wildlife sounds. But Sarah knew what she'd seen, and she knew that somewhere in the vast Alaskan wilderness, in caves that stretch deep into the earth where no one goes and no light reaches, things live that shouldn't exist. Things that are learning. Things that have discovered that humans make good prey. The research station was shut down. That section of forest was designated as off-limits due to dangerous wildlife activity. But Sarah knows the real reason. The authorities know something is out there. They just don't know what to do about it. 6 months after Sarah's rescue, 3 hikers went missing in the same general area. Search parties found their campsite abandoned, their gear undisturbed, and no sign of what happened to them, except for one thing, scratches on a tree near their tent. Deep scratches, made by something with too many joints in its limbs, arranged in a pattern that looked almost like writing. And at the base of that tree, a small pile of human eyes, carefully arranged. Watching. Always watching. Sarah lives in Anchorage now, in a city apartment, surrounded by people. She hasn't returned to remote research locations and doesn't plan to, because she knows that there are places humans shouldn't go, places where older things live, things that have been there longer than we have and will be there long after we're gone. And in those remote places, far from civilization and help, those things are still hunting, still learning, still watching with their too many human eyes.